The USS Defiance moved through the dark space between stars, like a metal whale swimming through an ocean of night. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the stars shift and dance as his ship traveled faster than light itself. Year was 2157, and this was humanity's first real journey into the deep unknown. Jake had been in space for 15 years. This mission felt different. They were not just exploring anymore. We're looking for something that had never been found before, life that could think and talk back. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Lisa Blake from her station. She was the ship's tactical officer, a woman who could read space like others, read books. Her fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease. "What kind of strange?" Jake asked, walking over to look at her screen. "Energy patterns, organized ones. Like someone is using technology out there?" Jake felt his heart beat faster. After years of finding empty worlds and dead space, this could be it, the moment that would change everything for the human race. "Ryan, bring us out of light speed," Jake ordered. Ryan Carter was the ship's chief engineer, a man who understood machines better than most people understood themselves. The ship slowed, and the stars stopped their dance. In front of them, space was not empty anymore. 3 large ships hung in the darkness, their hulls gleaming with a soft blue light. They were beautiful in a way that human ships had never been, smooth and curved like seashells with no hard edges or weapon ports. "My God," whispered Dr. Amy Foster from the science station. As the ship's xenobiologist, she had spent her whole career preparing for this moment. "They're real. They're actually real." Jake opened a communication channel. "Unknown vessels. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration ship USS Defiance. We come in peace." The response came faster than expected. The voice was gentle, almost musical, speaking perfect English. "Captain Morrison, we are the Zelhari. We have been waiting to meet you." Within hours, the human crew found themselves aboard the lead Zelhari ship. Jake walked beside Ambassador Kethva, a tall being with pale blue skin and large, kind eyes. The Zelhari looked almost human, but moved with a grace that seemed impossible. "Your species is remarkable," Kethva said as they walked through corridors that glowed with soft light. "We have been watching your radio signals for many years. Your music, your stories, your art. We knew you were special." "How many species are out there?" Amy asked, her voice full of wonder. 847 in the Galactic Cooperative, Kethva replied. "All peaceful, all friends. You will be 848. The next few days passed like a dream. The humans shared their culture, their history, their hopes. The Zelhari were fascinated by human creativity. They listened to Mozart and Beatles songs with the same excitement. They read Shakespeare and Stephen King with equal interest. But something changed when the humans began sharing their history. Files Jake noticed at first. Zelhari had been asking questions about human civilization, so he had shown them recordings of great human achievements. The pyramids of Egypt, the Great Wall of China, the first moon landing. The Zelhari watched with delight. Then Amy mentioned the wars. "Of course, much of human development was driven by conflict," she said casually. "The need to defend ourselves, to protect our people. It pushed us to develop faster, to become stronger." The room fell silent. Ambassador Kethva's large eyes grew even larger. "Conflict?" he asked softly. "Wars," Jake explained. "Battles between different groups of humans. For territory, resources, beliefs. It's been part of our history for thousands of years." "You fight your own species?" another Zelhari asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Well, yes," Lisa said, not understanding why they seemed so shocked. "That's how we learn to work together. How we develop tactics, strategy, technology. Some of our greatest innovations came from military necessity." The Zelhari delegation exchanged looks that the humans could not read. Ambassador Kethva stood up slowly. "Many of your people have died in these conflicts," he asked, Jake thought. For a moment, "In the last big war, World War II, about 50 million people died, but that was a long time ago. We've learned to be more careful since then." The silence that followed was so deep it seemed to have weight. One of the younger Zelhari made a sound that might have been crying. 50 million Kethva, repeated, in one conflict. That was unusual, Amy said quickly. Most wars are much smaller. Maybe a few thousand deaths, or tens of thousands. This seemed to make things worse. The Zelhari were backing away now, their movements no longer graceful, but fearful. We need to consult with our council, Kethva said. This is beyond our understanding. Did we say something wrong? Jake asked. But the Zelhari were already leaving. That night, alone in their quarters on the Zelhari ship, the human crew tried to understand what had happened. They seemed terrified, Lisa said. Like we had told them. We eat babies or something. Maybe they've never had wars, Amy suggested. Maybe their species developed differently. Ryan shook his head. Every species has to compete for resources. Every species has to fight sometimes. It's basic survival. But Jake was beginning to understand something that chilled him. He had seen the Zelhari ships. It's beautiful, graceful, but with no weapons. No armor, no defensive systems at all. What if they haven't? He said quietly. What if they really have never had to fight? The next morning, Ambassador Kethva returned with news that would change everything. The Galactic Cooperative Council has voted, he said, his voice sad but firm. You are to be contained until we can understand the danger you represent. Danger? Jake asked. We're explorers, not conquerors. You're warriors, Kethva replied. Warriors who have killed 50 million of their own kind. How many millions of us might you kill? The beautiful dream of joining a galactic community was ending before it had truly begun. The humans were not seen as explorers or artists or scientists. They were seen as something the galaxy had never encountered before. They were seen as killers. 3 months had passed since the USS Defiance returned to Earth with news that changed everything. The galaxy was full of life, but humanity was not welcome in it. On the distant world of Axiom Prime, the Galactic Cooperative Council met in emergency session. The Great Hall was a wonder of alien architecture, with walls that seemed to breathe and floors that glowed with gentle light. Representatives from dozens of species sat in circles, their voices creating a symphony of different languages and sounds. High Arbiter, Jelen stood at the center. The Vorthok leader looked like a giant praying mantis made of silver metal, but his voice was warm and concerned. He had called this meeting because of the human problem. We have studied their history files, he announced to the assembled delegates. What we have found disturbs us greatly. On the great viewing screen, images of human conflicts played out. Ancient battles with swords and spears, medieval sieges with catapults and fire, modern warfare with tanks and aircraft. The alien representatives watched in growing horror. Yixta of the Resonary spoke next. The crystalline being's voice rang. Like wind chimes in a storm, humans have been fighting for their entire recorded history. 97% of their existence has been spent in some form of armed conflict. Gasps and cries of shock filled the hall. To the gathered aliens, this was like learning that a species had spent most of its time eating poison. How do they still exist? Asked a delegate from the peaceful aquatic worlds. How has their species survived such constant self-destruction? The answer came from Dr. Velinara, an alien anthropologist who had spent weeks studying human culture. They do not just survive their wars, they use them to grow stronger. Each conflict teaches them new ways to fight, new ways to kill more efficiently. Meanwhile, on Earth, President John Martinez sat in the White House Situation Room with his closest advisors. Admiral Kate Sullivan, the head of Earth's Space Forces, spread holographic star charts across the table. Defense Secretary Paul Jensen and Secretary of State Maria Rodriguez looked at the data with growing concern. Our long-range sensors are picking up massive fleet movements, Admiral Sullivan reported. Ships from across the galaxy are moving toward the border systems. They're mobilizing against us. How many ships? The president asked. Conservative. Estimate? 50,000? Maybe more? The room fell silent. Earth's entire space fleet numbered less than 2,000 ships. And most of those were explorers and cargo vessels, not warships. They're not trying to destroy us, Secretary Rodriguez said carefully. The Zelhari made that clear. They want to contain us, keep us trapped in our own solar system. A cage is still a cage, Admiral Sullivan replied, and cages can become graves very quickly. It's back on the Zelhari homeworld. Captain Morrison walked through the Crystal Gardens with Ambassador Kethva. The alien had requested this private meeting, and his manner was troubled. I am sorry, Captain Morrison, Kethva said. I know you are a good person, your crew are good people, but the Council fears what your species represents. We're not monsters, Jake replied. We've learned from our mistakes. We haven't had a major war in decades. Decades, Kethva repeated sadly. To us, that is like saying you stopped breathing yesterday. We have species in our cooperative that have not known conflict for 50,000 years. They walk past a fountain where water flowed upward in impossible spirals. Jake tried to imagine a world where no one ever fought, where no one ever needed to fight. What about criminals? He asked. Surely you have people who break laws, who hurt others? We have rehabilitation centers, Kethva explained. We study the causes of antisocial behavior and treat them. Violence is seen as a mental illness, something to be cured. And if someone refuses treatment, if they keep hurting people, Kethva looked confused. Why would they refuse? Why would anyone choose to cause pain? Jake realized the gap between their species was even wider than he had thought. Humans understood the need for deterrence, for punishment, for force when all else failed. These aliens had never needed to learn such harsh lessons. On the water world of Aquatica, Commander Lisa Blake swam through the coral cities with her hydrozoan guides. The underwater civilization was breathtaking, with living buildings that grew. From the seafloor and schools of luminescent fish that served as living lights, but Lisa's military training made her see what the hydrozoans could not. The cities had no defenses, no walls, no guard posts, no strategic choke points. The beautiful coral structures were completely vulnerable to attack. Your cities are amazing, she told her guide, a graceful being named Coral Singer. But what? If someone wanted to hurt you, how would you protect yourselves? Coral Singer's large eyes showed confusion. Hurt us? Why would anyone want to hurt us? We have done nothing wrong. Sometimes people don't need a reason, Lisa explained. Sometimes they just take what they want because they can. But that would be wrong, Coral Singer said, as if that settled the matter. Lisa tried to explain the concept of evil, of people who did wrong things because they enjoyed it or because they were desperate. But Coral Singer could not understand. In 50,000 years of civilization, the hydrozoans had never encountered true malice. Back on Axiom Prime, Consul continued its debates. Dr. Velinara presented her findings on human military development. Do not fight randomly, she explained to the terrified delegates. They have turned warfare into a science. They study it, refine it, teach it to their young. They have schools dedicated to learning how to kill more effectively. The images on the screen showed human military academies, war colleges, tactical, training exercises. To the aliens, it looked like humanity had built an entire civilization around the art of destruction. But the most disturbing part, Dr. Velinara continued, is that they fight as unified groups. Most species, when faced with conflict, scatter and hide. Humans form organized units. They coordinate their attacks. They sacrifice individuals for the good of the group. A delegate from the peaceful ethereal collective spoke up. Are you saying they are like the swarm killers of the Andromeda sector? No, Dr. Velinara replied. The swarm killers are driven by instinct. Humans choose to fight. They make conscious decisions to use violence. That makes them far more dangerous. High Arbiter, Jelen called for order as panic began to spread through the chamber. Several delegates were already calling for their species to prepare for war. We must not let fear control us, he said. We are a peaceful cooperative. We solve problems through discussion and compromise. What if the humans will not discuss? Asked a delegate. What if they choose violence instead? Jelen had no answer. In 800 years of galactic cooperation, they had never faced a species that might prefer war to peace. On Earth, Captain Morrison received a coded message from the Zelhari. Ambassador Kethfa was warning him that the Council was considering extreme measures. If humanity could not be contained peacefully, they would be contained by force. Jake shared the message with Admiral Sullivan, who was now aboard the orbital. Defense Station Armstrong Base. The Admiral looked at the intelligence data with the eye of a career military officer. "They're making a mistake," she said. "They think numbers alone will win this fight." 50,000 ships against our 2,000, won't they? Jake asked. Admiral Sullivan smiled grimly. Numbers matter, but training matters more. Organization matters more, and the will to fight matters most of all. She pulled up tactical displays showing the alien fleet movements. Look at this. They're moving in straight lines, broadcasting their positions, following predictable patterns. They're not trying to hide or deceive. They're just ... coming. Maybe they don't know how to do anything else, Jake realized. That's exactly what I'm thinking, the Admiral replied. They've never had to fight a real war. They don't know the rules. In the depths of space, the largest military force in Galactic, history continued its slow advance toward Earth. 50,000 ships from 400 different species, all united in their fear of humanity. They came in peace, ironically enough. They came to contain the warriors, to cage the killers, to protect their peaceful galaxy from the monsters of Earth. They had no idea that they were about to learn why humans had become so good at war. The galaxy was about to discover that some lessons could only be learned the hard way. 6 months had passed since first contact, and the Sol system had become a fortress. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship USS Valor, watching the tactical displays that showed Earth's defenses. The planet was surrounded by a sphere of human warships, each one bristling with weapons that had been designed for one purpose: to kill efficiently. The Terran Defense Fleet was small compared to what was coming. 1,200 ships against 50,000. But these were not exploration vessels hastily converted for war. These were purpose-built instruments of destruction, crewed by humans who had studied warfare their entire lives. Captain Tony Rivers commanded the USS Guardian, a heavy cruiser that carried enough firepower to level a city. Captain Nicole Wright led the USS Fortress, a battleship designed to take enormous punishment and keep fighting. Captain Steve Jackson's USS Sentinel served as the fleet's eyes and ears, packed with sensors and communication equipment. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the approaching fleet," reported the communications officer. "Put it through," Kate ordered. The main screen filled with the image of High Arbiter Jellin, its mantis-like features showing what humans had learned to recognize as alien distress. "Admiral Sullivan, I am authorized to offer you terms of surrender. Stand down your forces and allow us to establish containment protocols around your system. No harm will come to your people." Kate studied the alien leader. Even now, facing the largest fleet in galactic history, he was trying to avoid bloodshed. It would have been admirable if it were not so dangerous. "High Arbiter, you are entering human space with a military force. That is an act of war. Turn around now, or face the consequences." Gellin's large eyes showed confusion. "We do not make war, Admiral. We seek only to protect the galaxy from the spread of your violent nature, by threatening to cage us." "Animals," Kate replied. "That is war, whether you call it that or not." The transmission ended, and Kate turned to her staff. "Status report." Commander Ben Hayes, the fleet's intelligence officer, stepped forward. Long-range scans show they're still moving in that same loose formation. No tactical dispersal. No. So no. all said no, I'm no, I'm no, I'm no, no, I'm so out if there no both senses of smooth they had told what. Attempt at deception. They're broadcasting on open channels, arguing about formation changes. Arguing? Kate asked. Yes, ma'am. We're intercepting their communications. It seems like every species wants to command the fleet using their own military doctrine. Crystalline Resonari want to form geometric patterns. The bird-like Etherics insist on a hierarchical flight formation. The Hydrozoans want to move like a school of fish. Kate almost smiled. And they're all using the same communication frequency? Gets worse, Admiral. They're using 17 different languages and 12 different communication protocols. Half the fleet can't understand the other half. This was information that would have made any human military commander weep with joy. An enemy force that could not communicate properly was an enemy force that was already half defeated. Captain Morrison, now serving as a military advisor, joined the discussion. I've been studying their ship designs. They're beautiful, but they're not built for war. Most of their weapons are mining lasers and research tools. They can cut through rock and metal, but they don't have the focused power output of true weapons. What about their shields and armor? Kate asked. Minimal. They've never needed to protect themselves from weapons designed to kill. They're defensive. Systems are meant to handle space debris and cosmic radiation, not military-grade ordnance. The tactical picture was becoming clear. The alien fleet was like a mob of farmers trying to fight a battalion of soldiers. They had numbers, but they lacked everything else that mattered in warfare. On the planet Zarian, Dr. Velinara continued her horrified study of human warfare. She had spent weeks watching recordings of human battles, and each one taught her something. Knew about the depths of human violence, she watched ancient Greeks fight in formation. Their shields locked together like a wall of bronze. She watched Roman legions march in perfect step, their discipline turning individual soldiers into a single deadly machine. She watched medieval knights charge across battlefields, their courage and skill making them living weapons. But it was the modern warfare that truly terrified her. She saw the D-Day landings, where thousands of humans had rushed toward certain death to gain a few miles of beach. She watched the Battle of Stalingrad, where two armies had fought for months over a single city, turning it into a graveyard of millions. They do not just fight, she reported to the Galactic Council. They have made fighting into an art form. Every battle teaches them something new. Every defeat makes them stronger. They'll learn from their enemies, adapt their tactics, improve their weapons. The council chamber was silent as they absorbed this information. Finally, a delegate from the peaceful ethereal collective spoke. Why do we fight beings who have spent their entire existence learning how to fight? Dr. Velinara had no answer. In all her studies of galactic civilizations, she had never encountered anything like humanity's military evolution back in the Sol system. The alien fleet had finally arrived. 50,000 ships stretched across space like a metal constellation, their hulls gleaming in the light of Earth's sun. To any observer, it would have looked like the end of the human race. Admiral Sullivan stood on her bridge, watching the tactical display with the calm expression of a career officer. Round her, the crew of the USS Valor went about their duties with quiet efficiency. There was no panic, no fear, just the steady professionalism of people who had trained their entire lives for this moment. All ships report ready for battle, reported the tactical officer. Fleet deployment is complete, added the navigation officer. Weapons are charged and locked on target, confirmed the weapons officer. Kate nodded. Human fleet had arranged itself in a formation that would have been impossible for the aliens to understand. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, they had positioned themselves in a three-dimensional web around Earth. With overlapping fields of fire and multiple fallback positions,
"Open a channel to the alien fleet,"
she ordered. Appeared on the screen again, his features showing confusion at the human formation. Admiral Sullivan, you have positioned your ships in a most unusual pattern. Are you surrendering? No, High Arbiter? We are preparing to teach you a lesson about the difference between having ships and knowing how to use them. We do not wish to harm you, Shallan said, his voice pleading. "Please, stand down your forces. We have you outnumbered 40-1. "Numbers don't win battles," Kate replied. "Training does. Discipline does, and the will to fight does. You're about to learn why humans became the warriors of Earth." She cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. "Signal the fleet. Operation Schoolyard is now in effect." The human ships began to move, not in the predictable patterns the aliens expected, but in a complex dance of coordination that had been practiced and refined over centuries of warfare. Each ship knew its role, its position, its backup plans. The aliens watched in growing confusion as the humans seemed to split their forces, sending smaller groups in different directions. To the alien commanders, this looked like either madness or cowardice. They had no way of knowing that they were about to face the most dangerous predator in the galaxy, a human military force that had been given a clear mission and the freedom. To accomplish it, Captain Lisa Blake, now commanding the destroyer USS Falcon, led her squadron toward the alien fleet's left flank. Her ships moved like wolves, fast and deadly, ready to strike and vanish before the enemy could respond. Remember, she told her captains over the CUM system, "We're not trying to destroy them all. We're trying to break their will to fight. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and then get out." The first shots of the battle were about to be fired. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had become masters of war. The lesson was going to be painful for everyone involved. The Battle of Titan began at 0600 hours Earth Standard Time. When Captain Lisa Blake's squadron opened fire on the alien fleet's outer edge, her destroyers appeared from behind Saturn's rings like ghosts materializing from shadow, their weapons blazing with deadly precision. The USS Falcon led the attack, its missiles streaking across space toward a cluster of Hydrozoan research vessels. The aliens had converted their ships for war by adding mining lasers and research equipment, but they had no experience with military tactics. Lisa watched on her tactical display as the alien formation immediately fell apart. The Hydrozoan ships scattered in all directions, firing wildly at everything they could see. Some shot at asteroids, others fired at their own allies. Within minutes, 12 alien vessels had been disabled by friendly fire. "Target the command ship," Lisa ordered. Her weapons officer, "Disable their engines, but don't destroy them." The Falcon's main gun spoke once, a lance of energy that punched through the alien flagship's hull and shut down its propulsion systems. The ship began to drift, helpless and broadcasting distress calls in 17 different languages. "Blake, to all ships," Lisa said into her CUM. "Hit and run, people. Make them chase us." Her squadron vanished back into Saturn's rings, leaving behind a scene of confusion and panic. The aliens had just experienced their first taste of human military precision, and they did not understand what had happened. On the USS Valor, Admiral Sullivan watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. Phase 1 complete. The enemy is scattered and confused. Begin Phase 2. Captain Tony Rivers received the signal aboard the USS Guardian. His heavy cruiser led a battle group of 20 ships toward the alien fleet's center. Unlike Lisa's hit-and-run attack, this was a direct assault designed to break the enemy's will to fight. The aliens tried to respond to this new threat, but their communication problems made coordination impossible. The crystalline Resonari ships moved in geometric patterns that blocked the flight paths of the bird-like Ethrix vessels. The Ethrix commanders, proud and territorial, refused to take orders from species they considered inferior. Tony watched the chaos with amazement. "It's like watching a school play where nobody knows their lines," he told his tactical officer. The Guardian's weapons opened fire, not at random targets, but at specific ships that had been identified as command vessels. Human intelligence officers had spent months studying alien fleet organization, and they knew exactly which ships to hit to cause maximum disruption. A Vorthok command ship exploded in a ball of flame as the Guardian's main guns found their mark. Immediately, 50 ships that had been following the Vorthok formation began flying in circles, their crews unable to understand why their orders had stopped coming. Commander Ryan Carter led an engineering squadron against the alien supply ships. These vessels carried fuel, ammunition, and spare parts for the massive fleet. They were completely undefended, because the aliens had never imagined that anyone would target non-combat vessels. Ryan's ships cut through the supply line like sharks through a school of fish. Within an hour, the alien fleet was running low on fuel and ammunition, while the aliens were still trying to figure out what had happened. On the research vessel Harmony's Edge, Zelhari Admiral Kethfa watched the battle with growing horror. He had been a scholar of peace his entire life, but now he was seeing war fought by masters of the art. How are they doing this? He asked Dr. Velanara, who was recording everything for her research. They are fighting as one mind, she replied, her voice filled with terror. Look at their movements. Every ship knows what every other ship is doing. They communicate in codes we cannot break. They adapt their tactics in real time. On the display screen, they watched as a human fighter squadron executed a maneuver that should have been impossible. The pilots flew their ships in a complex spiral pattern, each fighter covering the others while they attacked different targets. It was like watching a deadly dance performed by people who had been practicing together for years. How long do they train for this? Kethfa asked. From childhood, Dr. Velanara answered. Human children play games that teach them military tactics. Their schools have classes on strategy and leadership. Their entertainment programs glorify warfare and military skill. The Admiral felt sick. An entire species had been raised from birth to be warriors. And now his peaceful galaxy was paying the price for their fear. Captain Amanda Clark coordinated the human fighter squadrons with a precision that terrified the alien observers. Her pilots moved through space like a flock of metal birds, each one knowing exactly where the others would be at any given moment. Squadron Alpha, take the left flank, she ordered. Squadron Beta, hit their rear guard. Squadron Gamma, sweep around and attack from above. The human fighters split up and attacked from 3 directions at once. The aliens tried to respond, but their ships were designed for research and exploration, not dogfighting. Their pilots had been trained to avoid collisions and collect samples, not to engage in high-speed combat maneuvers. Within minutes, 200 alien fighter craft had been destroyed or disabled, while the humans had lost only 3 ships. On the alien flagship, High Arbiter Jelen stared at the tactical display. In shock, his massive fleet was being torn apart by a force 40 times smaller. It was impossible, but it was happening right in front of his eyes. How many ships have we lost? He asked his tactical officer. 3,000 destroyed, 5,000 disabled, 7,000 scattered across the system, came the reply. The humans have lost less than 50 ships. His clan could not believe it. In 6 hours of fighting, the largest military force in galactic history had been reduced to a broken collection of confused and frightened vessels. Signal all ships to retreat, he ordered. Sir, many of our ships cannot receive the signal. Their communication arrays have been destroyed. Then send courier ships to deliver the message personally. But even this simple task proved impossible. The human fighters had targeted the alien communication ships early in the battle, leaving most of the fleet unable to coordinate a retreat. Captain Steve Jackson, commanding the USS Sentinel, had been watching the battle from a distance and recording everything. The ship was packed with sensors and communication equipment, and he had been analyzing alien tactics throughout the fight. Admiral, he reported to Sullivan, the enemy fleet is trying to retreat, but they don't know how. They've never practiced withdrawing from battle. Half their ships are trying to run, the other half are trying to regroup, and they're getting in each other's way. Admiral Sullivan nodded. This was the moment she had been waiting for. The aliens had learned their first lesson about warfare. It was not enough to have ships and weapons. You needed training, discipline, and unity of command. Signal all ships. She ordered, cease fire and open a communication channel to the alien fleet. The shooting stopped, and space became quiet, except for the drift of damaged ships and the cries of alien survivors. Hi. Arbiter Jelen appeared on the main screen, his features showing shock and defeat. Admiral Sullivan, he said, his voice broken. We surrender. Please spare our people. Kate looked at the alien leader with something approaching pity. Hi, Arbiter. We are not monsters. We will help you recover your wounded and repair your ships. But you need to understand something important. What is that? War is not about destruction. War is about achieving your goals while preventing your enemy from achieving theirs. We have achieved our goal, the defense of Earth. Now we can talk about peace. The aliens had come to cage the warriors of Earth. Instead, they had learned why. Humans had become the guardians of peace in their own world. The galaxy's first lesson in warfare was over. But the real education was just beginning. 3 days after the Battle of Titan, the debris field still glowed with the heat of destroyed ships. But something unexpected was happening in the wreckage. Human rescue vessels moved among the alien hulks, pulling survivors from damaged ships and providing medical aid to the wounded. Ambassador Carol Peterson floated in zero gravity aboard the diplomatic station Harmony, watching the rescue operations through the observation deck's massive windows. She had been monitoring communications between Earth and the alien fleet. What she heard both amazed and worried her. The aliens were not just defeated, they were terrified. Dr. Amy Foster drifted beside her, holding a datapad filled with alien psychological profiles. As the fleet's xenobiologist, she had been studying the aftermath of the battle and its effects on alien morale. "They're calling us demons," Amy said quietly. "Some species think we're a plague sent to destroy the galaxy. Others believe we're weapons created by some ancient war machine." "What do you think?" Carol asked. "I think they're learning that the universe is more dangerous than they ever imagined. And they're realizing that their peaceful civilization exists only because nobody has threatened it before." On the bridge of the USS Valor, Admiral Sullivan reviewed after-action reports with growing concern. The human victory had been complete. But the cost was becoming clear. The alien fleet was broken not just militarily but psychologically. Captain Morrison joined her, carrying intelligence reports from the alien ships. "How bad is it?" Kate asked. "Bad. 7 alien species are talking about withdrawing from the Galactic Cooperative entirely. They want to build defenses around their homeworlds and never leave them again. 3 others are demanding that we be destroyed completely no matter the cost, and the rest, confused, scared. They don't know what to think anymore." Kate studied the tactical displays that showed the scattered alien fleet. Many ships were still drifting powerless, their crews too shocked to repair their vessels. Others had begun forming small defensive groups, as if they expected the humans to attack again at any moment. "We need to do something before this gets worse," she said. On the research vessel Harmony's Edge, Dr. Velinara was having a breakdown. The alien anthropologist had spent weeks studying human warfare, but watching it in action had shattered her understanding of civilized behavior. She played back recordings of the battle, focusing on moments that horrified her the most. Human pilots who had sacrificed their own ships to save their wingman. Human commanders who had risked their entire squadrons to rescue alien survivors. Human soldiers who had fought with deadly efficiency one moment and showed mercy the next. "They are not evil," she whispered to herself. "They are something worse. They are good at being evil." Admiral Kethva found her in the observation lounge, staring out at the human rescue ships. "Doctor, you need to rest," he said gently. "How do they do it?" she asked without looking at him. "How do they switch from killing to saving? How do they fight so well and still maintain their humanity?" Kethva had no answer. In all his years of diplomatic service, he had never encountered a species that could compartmentalize violence the way humans did. Captain Tony Rivers was leading the rescue operations from his ship, the USS Guardian. His crews worked alongside alien survivors, using human medical equipment to save lives that had nearly been lost in the battle. The irony was not lost on him. The same hands that had operated weapon systems designed to kill were now operating medical equipment designed to heal. "Captain," his medical officer reported, "we've got a crystalline resonary with severe fractures. Their physiology is completely different from anything we've seen. Patch me through to their ship's medical bay," Tony ordered. "We'll learn their procedures and adapt our equipment." This was another thing that terrified the aliens. Humans did not just fight well. They learned fast. They adapted. They turned every experience into knowledge that made them more effective. On the alien command ship, High Arbiter Jelen met with his surviving council members. The elegant chamber that had once hosted peaceful debates was now filled with frightened representatives who spoke in hushed tones. "The humans are helping our wounded," reported a delegate from the Hydrozoan worlds. "Their medical teams are saving lives that we thought were lost." "It makes no sense," said another delegate. "They destroy us, then they heal us. Are they trying to confuse us?" Dr. Velinara entered the chamber, her research data clutched in her. Shaking hands. "I have studied their battle recordings," she announced. "I understand now what makes them so dangerous." The council fell silent, waiting for her explanation. "They do not fight to destroy, they fight to win. There is a difference. Destruction is wasteful. Winning achieves goals." She activated a holographic display, showing human tactical movements during the battle. "Watch how they target our command ships, but spare our medical vessels. See how they disable our weapons, but avoid destroying our life support. They could have killed us all in the first hour, but they chose not to." "Why?" Shalon asked. "'Cause dead enemies cannot surrender. Dead enemies cannot be negotiated with. Dead enemies cannot become allies." The council members looked at each other with growing understanding and fear. Back on Earth, President Martinez was dealing with his own crisis. The human population was celebrating their military victory, but the president understood that winning battles was easier than winning peace. "The aliens are scared of us now," Secretary Rodriguez reported during their emergency cabinet meeting. "Some of their species are calling for our complete extermination. They think we're too dangerous to exist. Can we blame them?" Defense Secretary Jensen asked. "We just proved that we can destroy fleets 40 times our size. If I were them, I'd be terrified too." President Martinez looked at the intelligence report spread across his desk. The galaxy was fracturing. Some species wanted to hide. Others wanted to fight. A few were beginning to wonder if they needed to learn human military techniques to survive. "We need to show them that we're not conquerors," he said. "We need to prove that our strength serves peace, not war." Captain Steve Jackson had an idea that might help. From his ship, the USS Sentinel, he had been monitoring alien communications and noticed something interesting. "Admiral," he reported to Sullivan, "I think we have an opportunity. The aliens are asking questions about our military philosophy. They want to understand how we can be so effective in battle but still show mercy to defeated enemies." "What kind of questions?" "They're asking about our rules of war, our codes of conduct. They don't understand how we can have laws that govern killing." Admiral Sullivan realized what he meant. The aliens had never needed to develop concepts like the laws of war or rules of engagement or military ethics. They had no framework for understanding controlled violence. "Set up a communication link," she ordered. "It's time we taught them the difference between warfare and slaughter." But even as the humans prepared to share their hard-won wisdom about the ethics of conflict, darker forces were moving in the depths of space. The Galactic Cooperative had one more card to play. High Arbiter Jelen received a coded message from the Core Worlds, the oldest and most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. They had a weapon that could destroy entire star systems, and they were prepared to use it. The choice was simple. Humanity would accept permanent containment, or Earth would be turned into a lifeless rock. The aliens had tried to fight humans with conventional forces and failed. Now they were ready to try genocide. The real test of human character was about to begin. The gravitational disruptor emerged from hyperspace like a mountain of metal and crystal. The weapon was 50 miles long and carried the combined technology of the galaxy's oldest civilizations. It could tear apart the fabric of space itself, turning entire star systems into cosmic dust. Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge of the USS Valor, watching the massive alien weapon approach Earth. Long-range sensors showed its true power, and the readings made her blood run cold. This was not a ship or a fleet. This was a device built for one purpose: to erase planets from existence. "How long until it reaches firing range?" she asked her tactical officer. 6 hours, Admiral. "Once it powers up, we'll have maybe 10 minutes. Before Earth is destroyed." Kate looked at the faces of her crew. These were people who had faced impossible odds before, but this was different. This was not a battle they could win through skill or courage. This was extinction. Signal all ships, she ordered. Full attack formation. We're going to ram that thing if we have to. President Martinez received the news in the White House bunker. Surrounded by his closest advisors, the mood in the room was grim. Earth's entire fleet would be destroyed trying to stop the alien weapon, and it probably would not be enough. How many people can we evacuate? He asked. Maybe 10,000, replied Admiral Sullivan over the communication link. The colony ships aren't fast enough to outrun that weapons range. Then we fight, Martinez said simply. We fight until the end. But Captain Morrison had a different idea. He was aboard the small diplomatic vessel Peacemaker, flying directly toward the alien weapon. His plan was insane, but it was the only chance humanity had. Admiral, I'm requesting permission to board that weapon, he said over the com. Jake, that's suicide, Kate replied. Their defenses will tear you apart before you get within a mile of it. Not if I'm not trying to attack it, Morrison said. I'm going to talk to them. Dr. Amy Foster was with him on the Peacemaker, along with Ambassador Carol Peterson. They had spent the last few hours preparing for what might be humanity's final diplomatic mission. The weapon is being operated by a coalition of the oldest species in the galaxy, Amy explained.
Alice.
The Eternals, the Primarchs, the Crystal Mines. They've been peaceful for so long that they've forgotten what violence really means till they met us, Carol added sadly. Morrison piloted the small ship through the debris field where the alien fleet still drifted. Many of the alien vessels had been repaired by human engineering teams, but their crews remained in shock from the battle. As the Peacemaker approached the massive weapon, it was surrounded by alien fighter craft. But instead of firing, they escorted the small human ship to a docking bay. Morrison found himself in a chamber that defied description. The walls seemed to be made of living light, and the floor rippled like water under his feet. At the center of the room stood three beings that represented the pinnacle of galactic evolution. The first was an Eternal, a creature of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell. The second was a Primarch, tall and graceful with skin that shimmered like starlight. The third was a crystal mind, a geometric form that hurt to look at directly. Human Morrison, the Eternal, spoke without moving its lips. You have come to witness the end of your species' threat to galactic peace. I've come to show you what peace really means, Morrison replied. The crystal mind's form shifted and sparkled. You speak of peace, while your species has spent millennia perfecting the art of war. That's exactly why we understand peace, Morrison said. We've seen what happens when it fails. He activated a holographic projector that Amy had prepared. Images filled the chamber, but these were not scenes of human warfare. These were scenes of what came after. The aliens watched as human soldiers distributed food to starving populations. They saw human medics treating wounded enemies. They witnessed human engineers rebuilding cities that had been destroyed in conflicts. This is what we learned from 10,000 years of war, Morrison explained. We learned that winning a battle means nothing if you lose the peace that follows. The Primarch stepped forward, its starlight skin shifting through colors of confusion. You fight to protect peace, but fighting destroys peace. Fighting can destroy peace, Morrison agreed. But sometimes fighting is the only way to preserve it. We learned to be warriors so that others could remain peaceful. Amy's voice came through the communicator. Show them the real footage, Jake. Morrison activated another sequence. This one showed human peacekeepers standing between warring factions on distant worlds. Human diplomats negotiating ceasefires. Human soldiers taking bullets meant for civilians. We became good at war so we could be better at peace, Morrison said. Every battle we fought taught us something about preventing the next one. The Eternal's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been uncertainty. But your species kills. You have ended billions of lives. Yes, Morrison said without shame. And every death taught us the value of life. Every war taught us the price of failure. We learned to kill so we would know when not to kill. Dr. Amy Foster's voice came through again. The weapon is powering up, Jake. You've got maybe 5 minutes. Morrison looked at the three ancient beings. You're about to commit genocide to preserve peace. How does that make you different from the monsters you think we are? The crystal mine's geometric form stopped its constant shifting. For the first time in eons, it was completely still. We are protecting the galaxy from your violence, it said. What? By becoming violent yourselves, Morrison replied. By doing exactly what you fear, we will do. The silence that followed was broken by a new voice. High Arbiter! Jellin appeared on a communication screen, his mantis-like features showing desperate urgency. Ancient Ones, please. I have been studying the humans more closely. They are not what we feared. Explain, the Primarch demanded. Have been helping our wounded, teaching our crews, sharing their medical technology. They had the power to destroy our entire fleet, but they chose to disable and capture instead. The Eternal turned its attention to Morrison. Why did your people show mercy to defeated enemies? Because dead enemies can't become friends, Morrison said simply. We learned that the hard way. Ambassador Peterson's voice came through the communicator. Jake, Earth's fleet is moving to intercept the weapon. They're going to try to ram it. Morrison realized this was his last chance. You want to protect the galaxy from warfare? Then let us teach you how to do it properly. Let us show you the difference between violence and justice, between destruction and defense. He paused, then added the words that would either save or damn humanity. We're not asking you to trust us because we're peaceful. We're asking you to trust us because we're the only species in the galaxy that truly understands the cost of war. The three ancient beings looked at each other in a way that transcended physical communication. For long moments, the chamber was silent, except for the hum of the massive weapon charging its reality-breaking energies. Finally, the crystal mind spoke. The weapon will be deactivated. 6 months later, Captain Morrison stood in the Great Hall of Axiom Prime, now wearing the uniform of a Galactic Peace Corps admiral. Around him, representatives from 850 species gathered to witness the establishment of something new in galactic history. The Terran Defense Academy had been founded to teach the galaxy's peaceful species how to defend themselves. Human instructors worked alongside alien students, sharing hard-won lessons about the art of protecting peace. Dr. Amy Foster now headed the Galactic Institute for Conflict Resolution, where diplomats learned that sometimes the threat of force was necessary to make peace talks meaningful. Ambassador Peterson had established the Universal Code of Military Ethics, ensuring that if war ever came to the galaxy again, it would be fought with honor and restraint. And in the depths of space, human patrol ships now guarded the trade routes that connected peaceful worlds, their crews trained not to conquer but to protect. The galaxy had learned that peace was not the absence of the capacity for war. Peace was war held in check by wisdom, mercy, and the knowledge of what happened when it was unleashed. Humanity had become what they had always been meant to be, not the destroyers of galactic peace, but its guardians, the species that had mastered. War had finally taught the galaxy how to preserve peace.